Please pray with me. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us and still us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on this your people, that the meditation of our hearts and the words of my mouth may be acceptable to you. Amen. One of the most challenging experiences I have ever had as a human is raising children. Babies waiting to make their debut, mother focusing on the work of labor, father making sure he's more helpful than annoying. If you were to ask Dave, he never had the excitement that is normal during delivery. During the stage of pushing, the baby heart monitor would plummet with each effort to push, which with each of them, we had fetal distress. With 8-pound, 4-ounce Esperanza, each time I pushed, her heart rate would plummet. So they decided to use forceps to expedite the process of getting her out. Since the umbilical cord is the means by which a fetus gets oxygen, they anticipated there was something wrong. She came out screaming bloody murder with the cord wrapped around her ankle. A bit dramatic. The doctor believes that when I bear down to push, she was also pushing as babies do, and it's likely that she was stepping on her own cord. Each time I pushed, she pushed and constricted the blood flow of oxygen, leading to a steep drop in her heart rate. We were fortunate that it was not more serious. When our 7-pound, 3-ounce Maya was delivered, it was no different. The doctor used a suction cup to help pull her out after we discovered that her heart rate was also plunging with each pushing contraction. She had the cord around her neck. And when her head peeked out, the doctor had me stop, untangled the cord, and we continued. The rest went well with barely a complaint out of Maya as she looked at her new world with big eyes and a lumpy head, thanks to that suction cup. Not to be outdone by his siblings, 8-pound, 14-ounce Carlos required an emergency C-section. When the time came to push, his heart rate plummeted too. The doctor figured that the cord could be around his neck, and if they could get his head out, they could unwrap the cord and continue with the birth. Stop pushing, unwrap the cord, keep pushing. But Carlos made no progress to descend, and by the third push, with scary vitals dropping on the screen, the doctor ordered an emergency C-section. At one point during that procedure, the doctor told Dave to take a look over the drape. There, being held by the doctor, just on my hips, sat Carlos. They could pull him no further, with the cord wrapped around his neck once, his torso twice, and his leg once. After they untangled the baby acrobat, they showed Dave the longest cord they had ever seen. It turns out that when a baby is very active in the womb, the cord grows longer to give them room to move around. Apparently, Carlos was practicing somersaults and his MMA fighting skills from the very beginning. It's fair to say that Carlos never remembers Dave with anything but white hair, but now you know why. If you remember what I said at the beginning, you know that it's not the end of it. I didn't say giving birth was one of the most challenging experiences I've ever had as a human. I said raising children has been one of the most challenging experiences. Once they come out, their portability decreases significantly, and they grow, and as they grow, your own mobility becomes limited. It's not because you can't move as well as you used to. It's because most of the day, your movement is restricted to chasing little legs wherever they carry those mindless little creatures. I'm sure that there is a survey out there somewhere showing that 5 out of 10 parents would recommend. And that's okay for the kids who are downstairs. I'm sure that there's also a survey that says 5 out of 10 children would recommend their parents to someone else. Life is about compromise. Each stage of parenting teaches you something new about letting go. Being a parent for me has meant learning how to hold on to my children and how to make room. And that is what came to mind when I came across this particular line in today's reading. Do not hold on to me. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared to a few, or to some, or to many, depending which gospel you read. In the portion that we read today, Jesus allows people to see and touch, but the desire to cling to him had to be tempered. Do not hold on to me. I think of raising children. The intimacy of being a parent is special. And as they grow, we have to learn to make room from the things we understand about them to the ways they understand themselves. We have to learn to make room. We have to trust that they will be okay as they inevitably step away. There's a strange faith you have to practice when you have children. As I think about the unknowableness of resurrection, I consider that there is no part of Jesus that we can truly hold on to without faith. He is a mystery. Or if you read the gospel according to John, it would probably go something like this. Jesus is a mystery. Jesus as mystery. Jesus is mystery itself from the beginning with God. And we know John deeply believes this. Jesus is mystery that took John lots and lots of words to explain. If you haven't been able to come to church since I started here, you've missed out on some inside jokes about John's Jesus. Mystery Jesus fits right in with cryptic Jesus and monologuing Jesus. I think John went through great lengths to establish the nature of Jesus. And I think we get to the end with as many questions as we had in the beginning. Jesus, in the end, is shrouded in an unknowableness because his very nature is mystery. We can make some sense of the mysterious Jesus through the person of Jesus. We look at his life and we're able to understand some things about his nature. But I think that to understand the person of Jesus, we have to live lives according to the teachings of Jesus. Model Jesus in what we say, in what we do, and in what we think. In essence, to know Jesus is to live like Jesus. Jesus gives new life by teaching us how to live into life itself. To be thoughtful Christians and followers, I think there's a dance between embracing who Jesus was and following his example, while at the same time recognizing that we don't get to hold on to him for our own purposes. It feels so much to me like being a parent. I have this intimate connection to my children, but I cannot hold on to them in the ways that I want. I have to honor the connection I have while recognizing that they do not belong to me. They are their own people and belong to a greater community than my sphere, my home, and my ideas of them. Resurrection isn't meant to be some supernatural, otherworldly thing that is completely out of our understanding, not wholesale. No question, it's a mystery. And that mystery is central to the story of Christianity. It is where our faith takes us in the end, the hope for that mystery. It's meant for all of us, this extravagant embrace of life, but it is not something that any of us can hold on to singularly. It is never meant to be seen like that dang ring from those endless movies where we obsess over it. The precious, my precious is all mine. When we follow the teachings of Jesus, we recognize the personal and communal aspects of it. And we must recognize that none of us can fully understand or contain Jesus. No singular interpretation can contain Jesus. No church walls or rituals can contain Jesus. Resurrection Sunday reminds us that we are a people of faith and hope who do our best to understand the teachings of Jesus and what they say about him and about God. But none of us can hold on to him in the warm cocoon of our limited understanding. We practice resurrection by learning, living, and letting go. Letting go is how we live into our faith in community. Not to serve ourselves, our egos, our fears, our ideas, and what have you. Like with children who are ours but do not belong to us, it is part of the growing pains of learning to practice resurrection. That brings me to the next aspect of practicing resurrection. Today's reading from Acts puts the spotlight on Peter. Peter had to prepare to go to the Gentiles, and he has to learn something crucial. Resurrection into new life happens right here in the now. It isn't something that we just wait for. We practice it, just like Peter had to practice it in his time. In practicing it, we see glimpses of God's kingdom. Remember, God's kingdom isn't some otherworldly realm. God's kingdom happens every day. And this encounter with Peter shows us what living into the people of the resurrection means. It means letting go of temple, letting go of assumptions, letting go of small groups, letting go of what's in and what's out, letting go. Let's revisit that scene. Peter is a devout disciple of Jesus, a Jewish disciple of Jesus. He's out there continuing to spread the teachings. He's out there living into his faith post-resurrection. Resurrection isn't just something that happened to Jesus, as our story tells us. Resurrection happens in this life to all people who encounter Jesus. It is a resurrection of our minds, hearts, and spirits. We are brought to life from the constraints of our very narrow spheres. And like Peter, we are revived into new possibilities and new relationships. When we step with faith into the post-resurrection world, we find that we will be challenged. Challenged like Peter to step outside of our church walls. Challenged to leave the invitation to the table open to anyone who wants to approach. Challenged to walk away from the familiar and toward the foreign. The message of Jesus was never meant to fit into one book or one building or one hive mind or one experience or one era. The message of Jesus was never meant to be contained or manipulated in service of any one person or one people or one ideology. To practice resurrection means to step outside the walls. It means to let go of the things we can control, and embrace the dynamic nature of the Spirit. Peter had to figure this out in real time for those words to come out to the people he would have never dreamed of serving. As someone who lived in the pre- and post-resurrection times, Peter and the rest of the followers of Jesus had to figure out what it meant to practice their faith as a post-resurrection people. And that road inevitably takes followers to new places, uncomfortable places, challenging places, sometimes even dangerous places. In a world where division and categories, church walls and favorite scriptures splice us into tiny pieces, practicing resurrection defies all of it. It tells us to let go and embrace something completely new. Instead of reservations for entry, we set an open table for as many as are drawn to it. Instead of people with money at the front, it is those with the least leading the procession. Instead of closing ourselves off to superstition, fear, apathy, self-service, or anger, we open ourselves to new possibilities of community, sharing, and loving. We can hold on to one another without boundaries. There's so much about Jesus that we can't grasp, that we cannot hold on to. But we can hold on to him in other ways. They are the ways that are based on faith. Faith that being disciples of Jesus, of the Jesus way, is the way to bring God's kingdom to earth. And that is the kingdom that we strive to build right now. As we learn to practice resurrection, aka kingdom building, we learn that God also kind of continues to learn about this creation and to grow with us in new covenants and approaches. We should be so preoccupied with practicing resurrection that we don't know when Christ's holy realm will begin, Christ's holy reign will come, because we're so preoccupied with practicing resurrection. Modeling Jesus means working on the kingdom. It is our dress rehearsal. We should be so immersed in our own work of holding on to Jesus in a soft embrace, but not holding on to Jesus with a grasping sense. We do that in such a way that we won't even realize that we've already arrived at opening night. Amen.
Amen.
Our next hymn is hymn 237. I come to the garden alone.